In terms of ghostly atmosphere, nothing surpasses the Compass Harbor Nature Trail. Less than a mile from downtown Bar Harbor, the trail begins from the ocean side of Main Street. The visitor quickly enters a strange place of spellbound silence. In its eerie shores and mysterious ruins, Compass Harbor offers nothing less than a lost world haunted by the phantoms of the past. A supernatural veil hangs over the very beginning of the trail. The forest is clearly an overgrown park from a stately mansion that once stood on these shores. The path follows the remains of a long avenue lined in places by quarried granite along the banks of a gloomy stream. The hush of the place is intense, for Compass Harbor is somehow cut off completely from the bustling world of nearby Bar Harbor. Indeed, the trail soon leads the visitor into a haunted forest of exposed roots like claws. Here begins the maze of vague paths branching off into many different directions. Compass Harbor contained the first formal gardens on all of Mount Desert Island. Many of the trees here are cultivated varieties left to grow wild, enormous rhododendrons and Japanese pines. The cedar grove, in particular, stands as a ghostly trace of an intricate garden from long ago. In the center of this grove is a circle of enormous yew trees, ancient symbols of death and rebirth. In the forest of forking paths lurks the specter of the caretaker. This disturbing phantom appears only peripherally. The image is always the same, a dark-haired man in blue. The spirit appears only for a flash, and then he's gone, returning when least expected. In this way, the ghost seems to stalk the hikers on the trail. At night, the caretaker spirit manifests as a phantom light that weaves mysteriously among the trees. Although this spirit seems threatening, he does not harm anyone, only watches obsessively over the forest and the nearby ruins. Before reaching the sea, the trails pass the remains of a great estate that once stood over Compass Harbor. First come the remnants of the caretaker's house, located on a small, sunny knoll off to the right. These consist of the imprint of the driveway, a sunken cellar hole, and some piles of broken bricks from the chimney. Soon after the caretaker's house, in the direction of the water, come the shadowy ruins of the mansion. All that's left are the back verandas and the granite steps leading down to the beach, but these are impressive enough. The herringbone brickwork on the veranda is beautiful and leaves a haunting footprint of the vanished mansion and the famous people who once stayed there. The great staircase to the water looks like something from a lost civilization, yet a feeling of unease hangs over the place, caused in part by the flashing surveillance of the caretaker's spirit, who will come as far as the ruins, but no further. Over the years, on a certain tree beside the veranda, a rope keeps reappearing to hang ominously, or sway, even when there is no breeze. Old Farm was the name of the shingle-style mansion that once stood here. The Queen Anne Victorian was built in 1877, and it survived the fire of 1947, only to be demolished 4 years later. The house was built by the Dorr family, with fortunes that originated from the East India trade out of Salem, Massachusetts. The mansion was the setting for the supernatural from the very beginning. William James, a pioneer in the field of paranormal studies, visited the place, as did Edith Wharton, famous for her ghost stories. After the death of one of the Dorr's sons, psychic mediums regularly conducted seances at Old Farm to communicate with the dead. The last owner of Old Farm was George Bucknam Dorr, the father of Acadia National Park. Working with others, he made possible the protection of 35,000 acres of land into a stunning national park. Acadia National Park contains the highest elevation of land directly on the ocean along the whole eastern seaboard of the United States and Central America. As a landmark out at sea, Mount Desert Island contains an exceptionally rich history of early settlement and exploration. Without Dorr's leadership and personal sacrifices, these historic lands would not be protected for the enjoyment of future generations. He began his work in 1901 and devoted the rest of his life, his health, and personal fortune to the project. He brought many tracts of land that became part of the park, and he donated acreage he already owned, including his family's Compass Harbor estate, Old Farm, which he gave to the park in 1942. At the end of his life, George Dorr had spent all his enormous inheritance, and sadly, he lost his sight completely. But he had succeeded in making his dream of a national park come true. President Woodrow Wilson conferred the status of a national monument in 1916, and then in 1919, the status of a national park. Throughout the last years of his life, Dorr depended increasingly upon the assistance of his caretaker, John Rich, a man of fierce loyalty. When Dorr's money was gone, and he needed constant care, he moved into the caretaker's cottage on the grounds of the estate. Day after day, the caretaker helped Dorr along the forest paths of Compass Harbor, or assisted him down the long set of stairs to the water's edge, where the man could listen to the thundering surf. On August 5, 1944, at the age of 89, George Dorr died of heart failure on one of these walks. While his spirit has moved on, the same cannot be said of the caretaker, who haunts the forest and ruins of Compass Harbor. Everything points to John Rich as the identity of this ghost, but other possibilities exist. The land on which Old Farm stood was once the Cousins Farm, one of the earliest land grants on the island. Perhaps the Phantom Stalker belongs to a person who lived at Compass Harbor long before John Rich was born. No one will ever know the true identity of the Watchman spirit. At any rate, reaching the coast, we elude this persistent phantom. In addition to a stunning rocky outcrop called Dorr Point, the park shoreline consists of frontage on Compass Harbor, strewn with granite blocks from Dorr's old swimming pool, which the ocean filled and the sun warmed. Somewhere in this area, perhaps on the private property of nearby estates, is a very old Indian burial ground. French Jesuits passing by in the summer of 1613 reported on a funeral occurring on the shores of Compass Harbor. The spirit that returns to this place does not appear to be Native American, yet no one knows her true form. She materializes at dusk as the apparition of a young woman hurrying down the overgrown avenue, through the haunted forest and past the ruins of Old Farm. Her destination is the shore, and if the moon has already risen, she can be clearly seen walking down to the tip of Dorr Point, and then, most strangely, disappearing into the sea. Compass Harbor offers a walk into a phantom world of owl-ridden woods and rumbling shores. Ghosts stalk Compass Harbor, but it's the faceless spirit of the place that leaves the strongest impression. Infinitely remote from the everyday world, Compass Harbor casts its own kind of spell. It is a place that is haunting in beauty and in paranormal history. Hey guys, Reaper here. I just wanted to thank you all for either watching or listening, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. This story was brought to you from Ghosts of Acadia, written by Marcus Labrizzi and published by Down East Books. I wanted to give both of them a huge thank you and a huge shout out for letting me bring this book to you guys, whether it's in audio form on Spotify or in video form on YouTube. If you want to check out the book for yourself, I will leave a link down below in the description in both Spotify and on YouTube, so you can go check out the book for yourself and support the original author and original publisher. New story coming out tomorrow night. And until then, remember, sleep well, my friends.